One Piece, chapter 1052. That sounds crazy to say, but that's where we are. 1052 chapter is called New Morning. And of course, I'm here with Parvision. What's up, bro?
What's up? How you been?
Been good. You know, the One Piece has been keeping me entertained. It has been, you know, had my moments where it was frustrating. I was sad. I was excited, happy. But overall, great.
Feels like we've been waiting for this new morning for a long time.
Yeah, that's something. I guess we'll start it out with that. The dawn. I guess the dawn has not come yet. Or how do you feel about that?
I was, for a long time, a lot of my videos have been saying, like, you know, it's not over until we see the dawn, right? But given this chapter and given the last few chapters, it almost feels like we're not going to get the dawn. Like, maybe it wasn't as important as it was supposed to feel like, I guess. Or given how the chapter ended, maybe there's a progression. But then there's all the external announcements, right, regarding like the saga and stuff. So I don't know what it is. Maybe the dawn is this chapter, the new morning. That's our dawn. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. I wonder if Oda is saving it for when Wano actually opens his borders, but in a way it'd be kind of anticlimactic because, you know, it's been a week, right? And we're celebrating, we're doing all this. So I don't know. It's like a weird thing, but I was kind of expecting that. Maybe that goes back to our expectations, but it's just like when the dawn has been such a talked about thing, right? Like you're the moon, unaware of the dawn, all this different stuff. You expected like the sunlight to break through, but I think it might coincide with Wano's borders being open.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about that a bit later. So 1052 New Morning, cover page. Gangster Gastino is still in Whole Cake Island. What the heck?
All of the cover story was really interesting because it felt like, you know how the whole game with the silhouettes were? It was like everyone's trying to figure out who it was, and it was the most obvious answer. And you know, in a lot of ways that kind of reflected in the story too, because there was like, is the fight over? Is it? And it was kind of like the most obvious kind of,
the most obvious thing is done.
Yeah. But when I looked at this cover story in line with the chapter, because we got the whole 7 days, and one of the biggest questions I think a lot of people asked was, what happened to the Big Mom pirates? And I sat there and I looked at this cover story. I was like, yo, actually, like, besides Kaido, like, I would even argue that Big Mom's crew took the biggest L in the entire like Onigashima raid, because like the captain lost, apparently the crew is missing, their territory got raided by Germa 66 of all people, and they're successful, and then Caesar apparently is just gonna escape too. They just like Katakuri, Cracker, the entire like crew just took
what
an
is
L.
happening? And I think Caesar's probably gonna leave there with something. I don't think he's leaving empty-handed. I think he's gonna probably take something for his troubles. But I agree. I mean, that Wano probably would not change if Big Mom came by herself.
Yeah, and it's gonna like,
of course, Pedro. Maybe she came with Pedro because he was an intricate part. But oh my gosh, that is horrendous. Like, her crew did nothing. They just stayed there the entire time.
Yeah, and it feels worse too, because without the cover story, like, at least we could say like Katakuri and Cracker were doing stuff, but like, I'm a Katakuri fan. I'm just like, yo, how are we letting our house get destroyed like this? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, that's so weird.
The only way I can justify is Cat is still really hurt, because we saw Cracker still had bandages.
That's true.
So Katakuri could still be hurt, or we may see him soon. It's a weird thing to just not think about, because we remember how competent he was. So for Germa to be just walking around casually,
not even all of them, just the top people. They didn't roll up with their crew or anything. They just showed up.
And the thing is, I would understand if Big Mom took her entire crew, her entire army with. No, she took some formidable guys, but Katakuri is still there. Well, I think Snack was in the anime there in Wano, so that's weird. But Cracker's there, Katakuri's there. You had a bunch of top level fighters that's still there. You have the entire army there. How is this happening? Which does, make me feel like there are other people there that we don't know about yet, and that's what's keeping them occupied. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But no, I think that's in regards to Wano, that's been easily the biggest miss. Big Mom's crew not doing
it
shit.
Gets worse later on. I'm going to bring up a point towards the end of the chapter, and it gets worse when you think about it, but we can move on to the chapter.
We'll talk about it. But the Holy Land, Mary Joa, the Gorosei. It feels like every time we see the Gorosei, it's always dire straits. Yeah. Like they're always, recently at least, they've been stressing a lot. Yeah, it's about everything that's been happening.
It's such a change in how we receive the Gorosei too, because beforehand it was like we would get like blindsided by we're seeing the Gorosei, right? But now it's like now it's like every time they take an L, we're gonna see them. Like we're
gonna see them because they have to update us as to how they're feeling about the events, and I think that goes back to the Straw Hats. Their events are a bit more impactful now, right? So it's like you have to go all the way up to the Gorosei to get their reactions because those are the reactions that matter. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, Big Mom and Kaido fall. I don't really care about what, Smoker has to say. Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
How did the Gorosei feel about this? And because this is a pretty big deal.
On top of that, like the information that we got from the Gorosei too, like this, I don't know how you call him, Gandhi. Some people say Philip, but like this dude, the Gandhi. Things that he said were just like really interesting because like, first of all, they talked up Momo. Like they don't know it's him who did it, but they're like, at least one of them has considerable guile. And I'm just like, we're talking about Momo. On his end, he thinks he's a coward, but on their end, they think he's a mastermind genius. It's like, but
it's like, is that just silly though? Because like, is bro, the Momo for the most part said, okay, more than likely I'm not gonna open the borders because there are like a bunch of ships outside of outside of my country ready to raid.
Does he even know that though? Like he didn't even talk. That's what I was laughing. He can see through Zunisha's eyes. That's true.
Right. So it's like, well, the thing is, they probably don't know that. So I guess they assume he didn't even know that ships were outside just waiting. So it was just like, it was just a gut feeling or something.
Yeah, on both ends.
Maybe that's how they're looking at it.
On both ends, it's like a interesting like transfer of information because like for Philip here, Gandhi here, I have my theory. I have a video that's gonna be talking about. I think I figured out who this guy is, but for him saying so the borders are staying closed for now, that means Wano is still almost impenetrable based off of the elephant being gone, Zunisha. It's just like interesting because that means that like 100% Zunisha is key to opening Wano, and that's something that we didn't we kind of knew but we didn't know. So that means whenever Momo needs to open up Wano or Wano is being opened up, Zunisha has to be there apparently, and that's information that the Gorosei knew. So that's really subtle new information for us, I guess.
Yeah.
And the other part of it, like this was also super subtle, but like they said yes, it wandered into the mist. That kind of reminded me of like the Thriller Bark, like the shadow, like the eyes peering out. So I don't know if we're gonna get a loop around with that. Maybe that was Zunisha. Maybe that's another. I don't know. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it could be a group of them. A bunch of different Zoes. No, that's something I picked up on as well. Them saying Zunisha leaving means that Wano, the borders are staying closed for now. Like, okay, so you must have more information about how Zunisha is going to be impacting the opening of Wano, right? Yeah. It's like, how do you connect the two? Why do you connect the two? Or maybe the dialogue is a bit different in the official, but I think it's pretty clear here that they're saying Zunisha's gone, so the borders are going to stay closed. Yeah. So that was very interesting for them to say. Now they're still mentioning or talking about Nico Robin. This has been talked about for, by so many people about Nico Robin being abducted again. And did you follow what was happening? Basically the interception of the signal, the hijacking of the signal.
So this, I think it's a little interesting given the 7-day part of this, but this was so my assumption, right, is that Green Bull is the one saying stay where you are, right? I'm on my way, right? That's what we're assuming here. But it's really
that's what I got from it. I thought, okay, it was Green Bull because he's saying just stay where you are. I'm on my way,
right?
But I hear people saying that what if it's Caribou? They're saying it's Caribou doing. I'm like, Caribou. I didn't get that. Maybe, you know, somebody can offer more clarity once we post this in the comments as to why they think it's Caribou. But I thought it was clearly Green Bull.
So there's a subtle thing. The Caribou thing I might have seen, but the main thing was that I didn't even catch this, but I have a theory on this, and I mentioned it last time we were talking with Artur and Joyboy Theories about how you asked like what predictions of 1044 or whatever, and I said Luffy's might have ringed eyes in the next thing, and then he did. And so I have a theory, like double layered eyes possession theory from like last year. And so when you look at the Denden Mushi, when it's hijacked, it has ringed eyes. So the two ways you can interpret that is either you think it's my theory where it's being possessed and that's why it has double layered eyes, like it's receiving two signals, or
Green Bull has those eyes as well.
Yeah, or it's mimicking the person who's doing it, which you know, Caribou also has the ringed eyes, so it could be that. Or if Green Bull has the eyes, that would be really interesting. Not gonna lie, if he does have the double layered eyes.
That's interesting. That's interesting perspective. I didn't hear about it at all. So that's cool. As we move on from that, they mentioned the victory of the Kozuki, and it's just updating us, right? We get to the Hawkins and X Drake scene, which it was interesting. It gives us some more insight into Hawkins and his mindset, even with his cards and, you know, how he views things. What did you think about that entire scene? Because in some ways he's saying that it's going to be 1% regardless.
Right.
What did you take away from that scene?
The way I kind of looked at this was Drake and Hawkins are kind of like parallels of each other. They chose the opposite paths, and when you look at it, right, Hawkins started on Kid's crew, he betrayed them, went to Kaido. Drake started on Kaido's crew and betrayed Kaido and went to Luffy, right? And so the progression of their stories is who they ended up betting on by the end of it. And Drake bet on Luffy and Hawkins bet on Kaido, and this is the result, right? Hawkins dies and Drake is and then the other part of it is that neither choice was easy. Like you couldn't possibly, and that's reflected in their current states, right? Drake isn't any much better than Hawkins besides being alive, but he looks pretty close to death to me too, you know what I mean?
He's his own, so you know.
Yeah, exactly, at least he has that. But like when you look at it, that 1% thing, I think it is reflected because the choice wasn't easy, right, between Luffy or Kaido, especially from their perspectives, but it's reflected in that Hawkins ended up dying from his choice. The one interesting thing was that the anime in the filler scene, I think they confirmed that Drake was the 1%.
Drake was the 1% guy.
And it's going to be funny. They're going to have to like sort of retcon that when this episode comes out. But overall, that's how I kind of saw it, that this was important. It was interesting because like all these percentages that Hawkins had, like he had other ones, like he said like 19% to Luffy and Zoro. He said like something else. And this is the only one that we get like, you know, the full loop around, and it ends with him dying. So it was interesting, for sure.
And even him dying is kind of like, huh? You know, like it's like I understand, you know, with everything going on and it's a war, and Hawkins did, you know, go through a couple battles, but it's still like it's shocking. It's shocking. I'm not gonna lie. And part of me still doesn't want to believe Hawkins is dead. But I think it'd be a great way for him to go out.
My chat had to make me realize that, like, because I looked at this and I was like, like he chose wrong. And then people were like, yo, Hawkins is dead. And I was like, wait, what? And then it hit me. I was like, wait, he hit the wall and he slid down and he's dead. And I was like, oh my god. I thought the worst generation had plot armor. I thought they were all just gonna survive. But apparently Killer lived by his name. He's the only person on the rooftop who got a kill.
Killed somebody. He got a kill shot. Nah, I mean, if he is dead, that's amazing. I think that's a great way for Hawkins to go out, taking out one of the supernova. I know Oda had planned to kill some of them, before, and so now him following through with that'd be great. I'm not gonna lie, if Oda came out and said Urouge is dead as well, I think that would be great. Just saying another Yonko or somebody else took him out is just like, it's kind of making the world feel alive, you know. So I wouldn't mind that.
That's the thing, right? Like Oda conditioned me to think after the Kinemon scene last time, I'm just like, everyone's living.
I don't expect it. Yeah.
And then Hawkins dies. I was like, oh, all
Hawkins dies. Like, okay, cool. Not confirmed, but it seems that way.
Yeah.
The next scene I really enjoyed because it's somewhat erasing this history that was taught. Because I remember that's one of the early scenes of Wano, right? Them teaching the basically BS history about Orochi and what Orochi did and all this different stuff. And now they're like, okay, no, we got to rectify that. So no, we're going to teach you the exact what really happened. You know, it kind of reminds me as if like, you know, schools actually taught Black history.
Yo, I was going to bring up the same thing. Like this is, it's chapter 919, by the way, and it's hilarious that you brought that up because the same thing. I feel like not a lot of people would focus on this, but this was like a really good like loop around and then indoctrination type of thing that like even Otahime, you know, was taught us with like, you know, the way you solve racism is through, you know, teaching the kids the proper history, like the like, you know, one without like all this darkness, right? And then here we are on Wano, and the way the kids are being taught is that Odin and the Akazaya Nine are evil, and opening the nation is a bad thing, and only evil people want to do it, and closed nation is a good thing, and that's what Orochi's doing. And now we have the full loop round, which brings us to another point, right? Because it's like Momo doesn't want to open it, which is the exact parallel that like this scene is bringing us, that opening the nation was what Odin wanted to do, the Akazaya Nine wanted to do, right? So it's still it's weird with that whole Momo stuff.
As well, Odin and Whitebeard, right? And how they viewed freedom, where for Odin freedom was being able to leave Wano. For Whitebeard, freedom was not being chased by the Marines all the time,
right?
You know, so it was just like crazy how those even intertwine with Wano and the Marines, and how those two worlds are about to intersect, because eventually you're going to have to open it, and the Marines, they're going to pounce as soon as that's done, you know. So I think that's really interesting how Oda is tying all this together. But this is a scene that really resonated. I was like, this is great. They're thinking about even the kids and just how they've been conditioned, because let's be honest, a lot of this stuff started from when these people were kids, right? How Orochi was hunted down, how, you know, Kiku, Izo, right? Like all these things, Kanjuro, they are hunted because when they're kids because of the sins of their fathers. And I think it's like kind of conditioning the nation of like, okay, you know, this is actually what happened. These are different things. But I would be interested in how they make things come even more full circle with the Kurozumi, and kind of not forgiving them, but somewhat, you know, trying not to have the same mistake happen again, where people are, you know, avenging, you know, their siblings or loved ones because, hey, they got punished because of the sins of their fathers. So I think it's more to come with that, but, you know, only time will tell. But really enjoyed this and how they're trying to change that the perception of that. I guess we can move to Ringo, and they're building a shrine just like Ryuma's for Odin, which makes sense, right? Yep. Odin definitely deserves his own shrine.
100%.
And this is where we find out that Izo and Ashura Doji died. Like dead.
Yeah.
Confirmed dead. What do you think about these deaths?
Ashura, not that I wanted, but based off of what we saw, I didn't want another Kinemon situation, you know, like,
right.
So it's fine. It's sad, but the Izo thing was like, because what I thought last chapter, we didn't see Marco last chapter, and or not last chapter at 1050 when everyone's like recovering, we didn't see Marco, but we saw like Chopper, we saw Law, we saw them. But so I assumed Marco went to Izo and was trying to heal him, and so I thought Izo was going to survive. But then it continues with the Izo death, and then I think Marco said it like that. When he said what he said, it hit me. I was like, damn, Oda's doing Marco like he has. I think people are saying he has a darker backstory than like Batman. Like everyone's just dying around him. It's so sad.
it's weird because it's like Marcos is a doctor, we presume. That's what he says, at least he should be. And it's just like everyone keeps dying around him. I wouldn't be surprised if literally all the other Whitebeard pirates, the remnants, are all dead.
By Weevil? By Weevil?
By when they were fighting the Blackbeard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who was Vista, Jozu, like Speed, Jiru, like they all died, and then Weevil just picked up the rest. I don't know. It's just with Ashura Doji, I don't mind that, right? Because even how it went out, it was like, Ashura Doji, I really enjoyed him in Act 1, and it was downhill from there personally. Izo was cool, you know, it was like, all right, this person coming after 20 years to avenge, you know, their people. But there's no way in hell I thought Izo was gonna die. Yeah, they had the whole Shigan or the exchange with CP0, but and then Izo, it's like I didn't feel like Izo went through half as much as Kinemon went through. So it's like there's no way Izo is dying. It's just like what I'm questioning now is what does Oda have against the Whitebeard pirates? Why does he feel like he has to just kill a Whitebeard pirate like every arc or do something to a Whitebeard pirate? I don't know. It's Izo's death, even though I think it is important, it is a surprise, but I don't know if it's in the best way.
Yeah, I think like his fights in the manga were generally off screen, so I'm hoping the anime does them better and like shows us those fights and the gravity of them. Because like one of the questions I still have is he 2v1 the CP0 agents, but he also didn't. Like it looked like the masked guy, he was just sitting down, and so it was like a 1v1 and he lost it. And then before that he kind of like got, you know, surprised by 20 beast pirates and was like, oh, I underestimated them. And I looked at that, I was like, all right, the Whitebeard pirates I guess are just like washed up, I guess. I don't really know. Like, but it's one of those things where we don't really know what like, because Marineford was the debut of the Whitebeard pirates, but that was pre-time skip, so we don't know like what to really expect of them. But you'd want to expect that Izo would survive. Like, these are the legends, right? Like, when they showed up, it was like the CP0 was like, oh my god, why are the Whitebeard pirates here? Why are they siding with Luffy? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? But then for this situation to happen, where it's not that they weren't impactful or not impactful, but like this kind of taints the legacy that we should feel from them. I don't know. It's interesting.
I think you could look at it in both ways, because it could taint it, but I think it could even build on it. That Izo, if Izo died, I'm assuming one of the CP0 agents died as well. That's what I'm assuming. Maybe we don't know.
Yeah.
But
I hope,
it's kind of
like
guy
dies. I loved him. I loved him. He like respects to him. But if he survived that, I don't know.
That's
I don't know what to say about Kaido. Crazy.
But no, I don't know. It's seeing that Izo died just makes me feel like, it makes me feel sad, I'm not gonna lie, but it also makes me feel like Oda's like, I don't really have any more plans for Izo, so the best thing Izo can do right now is die. So it is what it is. Not really a huge deal, just really, really a surprise. Now I agree with you as well with Marco. It's just like, oh man, what's next, right? Like, he just keeps losing people and just keeps losing, period. This is his first war that he's won, somebody said. But it's at this point, I think Marco should just go and stay in Whitebeard's Island and just don't leave there, take care of the people, man. I guess we can move on to the Hiyori and Momonosuke stuff.
Just before that, I think this chapter, on top of like the really great moments that we did get from it, there was a lot of like spooky foreshadowing, I feel like, or like red flags, death flags even, like Kawamatsu, right? Like him talking to Onimaru or Gyakumaru, whichever one name, but he's saying, think we'll be honored here someday, Onimaru. Like, they already said that this is the burial place for all his friends. He didn't need to say that. Like, now I feel like they're gonna die within the series, but then it got like set in stone when Kinemon was like, if something were to happen to any more of our heroes, I don't think I could take it. And it's just like,
which means that something is gonna happen.
Yeah, and they just called did they just do it? Yeah, they just said Luffy, Joy Boy's heroism rivals the Blade God Ryuma, and Ryuma died, and I'm just like, oh man, they just called Luffy a hero, and then Kinemon's here saying this line. I mean, we feel like Luffy's gonna, like, some people, you know, say Luffy's gonna die by the end of the series, but that line, I was just like, they just called him a hero. I don't know how I'm gonna handle that. I don't think I could take it. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. No, that's a great connection that you made there. Yamato took a vow, or what did they say? A vigil?
Yeah, vigil.
Basically to not eat or bathe until Zoro and Luffy woke up, which is cool. I think it's cool. It just shows you know, how intentional she is about things, which goes back to her and the Odin thing, which we'll talk about a bit. But yeah, Luffy and them wake up, and I think it's interesting as well that Chopper is the first person that's like hugging Zoro. They've always had like this, you know, this connection, and this. I think it felt really good that Chopper was the first person there, just on Zoro. Like, I'm happy you're okay, especially with somewhat feeling, I guess, responsible for him taking that pill, right, to to heal him, and knowing of the effects and Zoro like coming out of it. I guess I can ask you, what do you think about the fact that it wasn't any real consequence to it that we've seen? I mean, they were out for 7 days, but what do you think about that?
I was definitely taken aback, because it's like Luffy and Zoro, like Luffy's recovery here. Yeah, it's been 7 days, but I don't know why it felt so abrupt. It almost felt like Kuma showed up and then pulled out his pain again. And then the same thing with Zoro, where it's like, exactly, like he broke all of his bone. Like, the man went through actual hell and still stood up. And we still don't know about this whole Grim Reaper situation, by the way, but like, and then he's just fine. Idea. So it felt weird, but I think it was masked by, like, I just love this double strat. I love this panel, and I was just like, it's so much nostalgia. Same thing with the Chopper thing. And I don't, like, I think there's a lot of questions about the 7 days, like what happened during it. Like,
Oda knows that, so he's saving it for a reason. He's gonna explain it. I would assume.
Yeah, right. It's definitely interesting, especially when you go back to the whole Robin situation, which is kind of like, you know, subtly not mentioned at all, but we open the chapter with the Robin stuff, and like they're all happy, they're all cheering. It's 7 days later and we don't see Robin at all, but they're happy. So it's like nothing bad happened to Robin, but 7 days ago the CP0 guy was like, yeah, we can still take her, you know. And then in the chapter we don't know who is on the way, but like, so it's just it's one of those things. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. Yeah,
we gotta wait and see. I think it would make sense. It really wouldn't make sense for them to be celebrating like this with Robin being abducted. Yeah. It just, you know, and especially with Nami, because remember when something happened to Sanji, she was immediately, like, as soon as they pulled up to Zoe, was like, hey, yo, like, exactly. You know, Sanji's been taken. So,
and it was in a parallel here with, like, when I looked at this panel with Nekomamushi and everyone there, I just like had flashbacks to Zoe and them all being like all over him, and like I think Luffy was like recovering in some sense. I don't remember exactly, but when he showed up, Nami did that thing, and so you know, immediately, like, the first thing that she said was like, you know, Sanji's gone. So if Robin were gone, you would imagine the same thing would happen here.
Same thing. It should be the same thing. So I think Robin is right now just in her wheelhouse, poneglyphs, lore, information, just trying to gather as much as possible, and so I don't think she's abducted at all. Momonosuke is trying the same thing that he tried that he did when he was like a kid. She's still a kid, I guess, mentally, but he's seen the effects of, you can't do that as a grown, like, giant man. And Sanji and Brooke, they're just loving it. I thought, I mean, a lot of people saw this coming after Momonosuke got turned into an adult, but it was just like seeing it just play out is like, it's perfect. Yeah, it's just like literally perfect. I love that moment a lot.
The highlights of these panels is that Oda gave us Nami feet pics for free.
Oh man, I didn't even notice that. Well, yes, he did. He certainly did. Yamato is so obsessed with Odin that she's putting plates on Momonosuke's head. It was like, yo, you're basically Odin now, you know? Like, she's like, you know, and I thought that was pretty cool because he does look like Odin, but he has his own, design, his own look to him. But what I also liked is that they're saying they're really hyping up his body and just how he's built, which goes back to his mom and his dad. And they basically said he's not the number one samurai in the country yet.
Yeah.
I think that's probably Kyoshiro, more than likely. But they're saying that, you know, one day you'll be that. And I think Momonosuke is definitely going to give it his all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
this panel actually, like, in reflection, this is probably my favorite one, because when I looked at it, it just kind of hit me that these two, like the Yamato, Momos, this scene, it's like, Kaido and Oden got split up into two people. Like, Yamato has Kaido's lineage, but Momo has the devil fruit. Yamato has Odin's like will and dream, but Momo has Odin's lineage. And it just, I don't know why, but it just like hit me. I was like, wow, we just split up like these two major players into two characters. And it was just like, it felt really nice to see them like being the way they were here. It was definitely really cool.
Nah, that was it's great to see them in this position, especially Momonosuke, man. It's just like we've been on such a journey with him, so to see him like this, it's cool.
Yeah, like in his Giga Chad form, and then later we see like he's not even just good looking. Dude's brolic too. Like
he's a big dude. Like he's huge. Now we get to the bath scene, right?
Yeah.
I guess, but before that, Nami invites Yamato to take a bath, right? Because she's like, hey, you haven't, it's like a subtle thing where it's like you just offer somebody gum instead of telling them their breath stink. She's like, hey, let's take a bath before the festival. All right. Because she gave up bathing and eating until they recovered.
Right.
And Sanji, of course, having, something with Jinbei, somewhat acknowledging Yamato after last chapter, not shunning her, but saying, hey, let's wait for Luffy's, I need Luffy to approve this first before you can just say you're joining the crew. Like after Yamato does this, right, where she doesn't eat or bathe until they wake up, Jinbei's like, what a good person, right? Jinbei's such an old man. It's just like, he's such a good person. You didn't do that for so long. So I think this is Jinbei acknowledging her, which kind of, in my opinion, further confirms that Yamato is definitely coming with us. But Zahiyori that's saying that she bathed Zoro and Luffy, and Sanji's just jealous, right? Because he's like, bro, like, how could you, Moss Head? And then they go back to the whole conversation Sanji and Zoro had, and then they go right back to fighting, right? It's just like they're right back in character, which I love. Now to the bath scene where Yamato basically says it's not a mixed bath, so she's gonna pass, and Kiku is asking to join Nami, right? Which is interesting because we know Yamato wants to be Yoden, and Kiku has always identified as a woman, even though she's born a male. But Oda specified that Kiku was a woman at heart, female at heart, right? So that's always something that's interesting. But in the bath, we see Yamato with the boys, taking a shower with the boys, or bath with the boys, and Kiku's with the women, which is expected. How did you feel about this bath scene? I mean, it's jarring, I think.
It's definitely, I think it's surprising to us, especially when you have characters like Sanji and Brook, and then Momo's like, what just happened to him early in the chapter, and the character that he usually is. And then tying, I think it gets like a lot more people is like questioning the Kiku stuff too, and then she kind of explains it the way I kind of see it, and like I think like a Western audience would see this differently, but like in general, nudity is like not a big deal, it's like more accepted, like it's just the body. Like we're going through the whole free the nipple thing, right? And it's just like kind of I think like, given the way we grew up in like the West, it is, we don't have like spa culture or bathing culture like this. No. And me saying this, it's just like, this is just nudity, right? It's not like sexualizing anything. And I'm saying that with a grain of salt because episode 1020, for anybody who like there was some problematic things there where in my opinion it goes into sexualizing stuff, which is like Oda's trying to.
You talking about Pedo?
Yeah. That was definitely that was crossing a certain line, because like that's different than what we're seeing here. This is just bodies, right? This is just bodies. It is interesting. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this for sure.
No.
But I'm curious to see how the anime does it, because bath scenes are iconic, and so we're definitely.
I mean, Sanji's dying. He's dead.
We're definitely gonna see some craziness in the anime when this.
Can you
drops.
imagine like Sanji's like, yo, like this is what I wanted, man. This is what I always wanted, like. And I have it right in front of me. Yamato is just butterball naked, and she's in the bath. And Momonosuke is like, wait, what? And Luffy and Zoro are just like enjoying themselves, having such a good time. It's like Luffy, I expect. Zoro is like,
yo, Luffy almost flashed us, by the way.
Yeah, he did. And Jinbei's just laughing away like an old man. It's a really wholesome scene when you look at it. I do like this panel, and Yamato is just enjoying herself. And again, that's a weird thing, because I don't really like talking about Yamato because of where the conversation goes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you talk about it; it's a problem to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a problem to someone. So it's just like either way. Right now, I think I'm just gonna enjoy the scene. Just a great scene, great spread. Just them after just the battle that they went through. I think back to what Zoro and Sanji said. Like once they win this battle, Luffy's quest to become the Pirate King is in sight. So it's like I'm just thinking about that when I'm seeing this panel here, even with Sanji dead.
Yeah.
Now looking at the women, just completely different energy, right?
Yeah,
just
it's more chill,
calm, relaxed, chilling. It's just a completely different mindset. And I think it's just cool just to establish that within the story.
I just think Oda did not need to have Tama saying, I hope I become bewitching too one day, and tying it in with what she is doing. And I was like, all right, Oda, we get it.
I mean,
Nami's number one waifu, we get it.
Yeah. It makes things a bit like, all right, let's move on.
And we talked about this before the thing, but like for all the people that are wondering about TCB, like in the delays or quotation delays in releasing this, what panels they were stuck on. I don't blame them. They were 100%. They were like Sanji in this chapter.
Yeah, they want to make sure. They just want to, make sure everything is kosher. You know what I mean? I guess as we move on, they're talking about the banquet, the return of the Kozuki, saying that the ships are ready to sail. And I like that Killer, Beppo, they're kind of geeking out over the Shogun, Frankie Shogun. For Killer and the kid parts, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because for them building things, right, and constructing things and new builds, it seems like that's kind of part of what they do. So them seeing Frankie, they should be super excited. Kids should be excited about this as well. But he's like, nah, let's not get too buddy, man. We can't let our guards down. Like information's gonna get out. With the Emperor's gone, we're gonna have the biggest targets. So it's kind of like he's cautioning them as to what's going on, but also talking himself up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But come to find out, like it's too late. Like the leak's already out there. Because you have someone like Apu that's casually just walking around, by the way, after everything that's happened. It's just like, why haven't they taken him out yet? It's 7 days later. Well, what do you think about that?
This entire thing, like starting with the, Killer thing, that at first I was like, wow, they gave Killer the, like, that emotion. Like, I didn't expect that. Especially because like in the anime he has the best laugh, or like sinister laugh. Like it's scarier than Joker, but like Batman Joker, it's so good. And so seeing that emotion is really dope. And then with the kid, I really liked like the progression of how they used Kid and Law to like give the perspective, right? Because like one of the biggest questions is like, okay, everything that happened on Wano, and it's like closed down, and then Law's just like he said it straight. It's like just because it's closed off doesn't mean it like things can't get out. And then boom, we get to Poot, right? And one of the things about this, there's okay, Okay, so this gets into, obviously he shows the newspaper and he's talking about the bounties, right? And the thing that I feel like is when you look at what Beppo says right above the poo panels, he says, do you think the captain's bounties will? And then he says they might raise it to an unthinkably large amount. And to me, that sounded like Kid and Law aren't going to get bounty increases.
Really?
Or if they do, it might be little. What do you think about that? You think they're going to get a huge bounty increase? And I'm gonna bring up a point after you say it.
It's kind of it'd be weird if they didn't. Like, I don't expect them to jump to where Luffy is, but it'd be weird if Kid and Law are not at least at $1 billion right now.
I agree, right? And so that's when that Beppo line hit me. I was like, oh no, like they're not gonna get the recognition. And so earlier I was thinking like they might say that Kid and Law are, or Law is already with the Alliance, but they might say that Kid is now Straw Hat's like underling, like in his alliance,
subordinate,
and
like
that would piss Kid off because earlier he memed Law and like, you're just his subordinate now, and then
they like say both of them are.
Yeah, and then the nail in the coffin was when you think about it, how did this information get out? It was a poo. Why would a poo leak positive stuff about Kid and Law? He has to say stuff about Luffy. Everybody, like that, it wouldn't make sense not to say things about Luffy. But Kid and Law, he has no obligation to. And Apu is a troll. If anything, it would be hilarious if he said he defeated Big Mom, but I don't believe that. But like, why would he say like, oh yeah, why would he accurately be like, oh yeah, Kid and Law took out Big Mom? He wouldn't do that. So when you think about who leaked the information, it almost also feels like Kid and Law might not get the recognition because of who is leaking the information.
That would suck.
It would. And then so I was telling my chat and my Discord, I was like, it's kind of like spoilers for One Piece. There's some, it's a little biased, right? And so these are the leaks inside. Apu is the internal One Piece leaker, and he is hella biased. He has so much reason to be biased.
I saw people on Twitter complaining about the spoilers today, saying that the spoilers said it's going to be a Buster call or something like that.
I have no idea. I don't read the spoilers, but like that's a reason why I don't read the spoilers, because they set you up for things like that, right?
Right. So like that's Apu could be slightly exaggerating the things he did and downplaying Kid and Law, say, oh, they were just following Straw Hat, everything was Straw Hat. So that could make Luffy go to like above 5 bill or whatever if they're saying like, oh, Luffy took out Big Mom and Kaido and Law and Kid, they were just supporting him. That would be crazy. I would hate that, but it's kind of like, that would kind of confirm who the other Yonko is, in my opinion. Yeah,
and that, and so earlier I was saying like Big Mom takes another L. It's like it just, all of this just like, even at like, if Apu is leaking it in that way, then Big Mom gets even less recognition, and she just gets defeated, like meaningless, like not even the headline, like the byline of the article, and it's just. I'm like, and then when you look at Kid's face too, is like looking at it, it almost feels like we're setting up for him to be disappointed.
Yeah, I can't wait. I really can't wait for the bounties. Definitely gonna make a bounty video as far as like what I expect. Now,
do you think we're gonna get them next chapter?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna be. I think Oda may save one of them or two of them for the break, just to troll us, right? So we might not see Luffy's next chapter. He might troll us with that and have like them react and then like, oh, the entire month we gotta wait for Luffy's bounty. That would suck, but it's just like something Oda would do. But I do think we get bounties next chapter for sure. Some of them, most of them. Then we see our boy Green Bull, right, pulling up, and the admirals, they always have a unique way to come into, just pull up. They have a unique way of doing that. Sakazuki's telling Green Bull not to do anything unnecessary. And based on his reaction or his response, I think he definitely will do something unnecessary. But because remember, Sakazuki last time told him to apprehend Fujitora and bring him, like, kick him out of Mary Joa.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yo, I gotta kick you out. And he's like, all right, do you want us to fight? He's like, nah, man, I can't be bothered with stuff like that. So I think he's gonna be low key for the most part, but the goal here is exposition, lore, and telling us something. There's something he has to tell. This is not going to be a fight. It doesn't make sense for it to be a fight.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
but this is No, it doesn't feel like a fight. It's too late. It's 7 days later. They're still recovering. And after all this time, putting the people of Wano through a battle like this, because again, this is an admiral, so it's not going to be a small scale thing. It would affect the people again, you know? So it's just like, I don't think Oda would put the people through something like that. I do think in some ways showcase just how powerful this guy is by the fact that he's coming into Wano by himself and no one can really do anything to him. I think that's what Oda's going to do. But I think this is all building, right? It's going to tell us what's going to happen. He's going to tell us about all the different things that has happened. Like, hey, we apprehended this person. This person is now under our control. What are you going to do about it, Straw Hat? You know, or maybe he could be somebody that believed in the Sun God or Droid Boy back in the day. That's why he wanted to go to Wano. You know, so it's just like, it's so many different things. But I think the last thing that will happen is an actual altercation.
Okay, yeah. So in my predictions video, I was saying that it feels like an admiral was going to come. I just didn't know who. And honestly, given, like, I think I said this for 1050. So given how the chapters are going, I don't blame myself for not knowing. And then on top of that, like, it was funny because the way it's set up, I thought that Green Bull was on the ships. And then so when this came, I was just like blindsided. I was like, what am I even looking at right now? Like the silhouette with like an umbrella type of thing. And there was a flower. This is, and so again, going to the point, it's like, it doesn't feel like a fight now. It could mean something later, right? Like in like the Garp situation, right? Like he showed up, gave some like information, talked to them. And then afterwards he's like, all right, I have to do this for like image purposes. Like I have to like act like I'm doing stuff. and it might be like that. Mm-hmm. Something that really stood out to me though was he's talking to Akainu, and like he's on like Green Bull is on Wano in the sky, right? And Akainu says, "Tell me your exact position." And I was just like, "Wait, why would that matter? How would you know? Why would how, like, what could Green Bull tell you that would be meaningful? How would you know what the exact position would mean?" And then that told me, I was like, wait a second, does that mean Akainu, it already feels like Green Bull might have ties to Wano for many reasons, but Akainu also, because he's like, again, it's like, why would you ask your exact position unless like you knew the location, right? Like if you told me you were in like California and I'd be like, tell me exactly where you are, you would assume that I'm like a local there and I know that information would be meaningful, right? Like, so it is that kind of like, that's interested me a little bit, but you know, we talked about. But I think
it's kind of like him trolling, like, yo, I just told you, Sakazuki, I'm in the sky.
It's like, this is that like sliver of a panel was just so. I don't even know where on Wano he is. Like, dudes with an umbrella flower thing floating. Like what power does he have? Right? Like, it's so
definitely a plant.
Yeah, my current thinking is what do you think? Like Logia, Paramecia, or Zoan? Zoan. Okay, so like, what like a human or like animal? Like people think like forest god. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning.
Yeah, I'm thinking flesh that out. This is an interesting thought, and I don't have like much basis for it. But when you think about Zoans, right, and like you think this is a plant, right? Plants and trees, that should be a Zoan classification, and we haven't had anything like that because plants and trees are alive. So he might be like a mythical. That apparently that's like a lotus flower, and lotus is really important to Japan. So he might be like a mythical flower model lotus. Like that might be what he is, and it'd be really interesting.
I agree. I think that's what it is. I think it could be something mythical zone for sure, and I think he's going to restore Wano back to its lush, growing, like just how it used to be. Because that's something that was that they hyped up about Wano early in Wano, but like, hey, especially in the flashback about how Wano was everything was growing, you know, it was fruitful, and after Orochi and Kaido is like a barren wasteland, and I think, you know, Green Bull could change that. This would be a great showcase to show just how much he can affect with his powers. So, you know, I think this is a great way to end off a chapter. I'm happy we have at least one more chapter left. I believe one more chapter left until the break.
Yep.
And you know, I really can't wait for the break. At least for the next chapter, and then what's to come. It's really exciting at this point.
Yeah. we already talked about it with 1053. Like, you think the bounties are there, right? But like, if the external communications have been that 1054 is going to be the start of the last saga, apparently, like from, and that's a little interesting to me because it feels abrupt. To me, it doesn't necessarily mean Wano's ending, because you could still like carry over and the last saga can start with us like concluding this stuff, and we don't know how long that would be. But like, given there's a huge 4-week break, if bounties are next chapter, and let's just say like Wano is concluding in a way, and we mentioned it before, Robin's probably looking at the poneglyphs, are we gonna continue to be like essentially blue-balled on the poneglyphs? Because like, we still have 4 poneglyphs, and they have to look for the last one, because we know where one of them is, but the last one we don't know, the Rio poneglyph. And then there's the 2 that Robin still hasn't read from Whole Cake Island that Brooke stole. And we're not seeing Robin in this chapter. So is next chapter going to be like bounties or poneglyphs? Or are we going to see Green Bull? Or is it everything again? Like this, I don't know what to expect for 1053. I
think what Oda could do is basically have it where 1054 would be poneglyph stuff, because once we get information on the poneglyphs and it tells us how to get to Laugh Tale or better information there, then you can say, okay, this is the beginning of the final saga, even though it's still in Wano. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even if you start in the beginning of the final saga, it's like, even if you're still in Wano, everything now from this point forward is building up towards the final arc, right? It's no longer about Wano. We're still in Wano, like that's our geographical location, but right now everything we're finding out in Wano is for the future. This is has nothing to do with the story or what's the build up, what has been for Wano. So I think that's what it could be, that the final saga is starting, but we're still going to be in Wano because we're just here planning right now. We're planning for the next thing.
Yeah. Do you think the last saga is going to be longer than this saga?
Yes, I do.
Is that wishful thinking, or is that
probably wishful? I mean, I think One Piece probably has still 5 years left.
Okay, yeah.
I still think it has 5 years left. So 2027, that's probably when it ends. But I do think that Oda can have plans to end this, in 5 years. You said that 2 years ago. But there's no way in the final arc he's not going to be adding things on, trying to flesh things out. It's just inevitable because it's the final arc, final saga. You're going to want to make sure you get as much out as possible. So, I think I think it will go a bit long, especially the final arc, which we presume to be the world government, like Luffy versus the world government. I think that's going to be pretty long as well.
Right. I think 5 years is the safe bet, but like I've been thinking about it more, and I have like theory videos coming out about this. Do you feel like Wano, right? Like, do you think Green Bull is connected to Wano? Like, he has like heritage or lineage. Do you think like there's a tie in there?
It's so weird because I think Fujitora like makes more sense because of his attire, and just it makes a lot of sense. Fujitora. For Green Bull, I haven't thought that he was. So, not gonna lie.
So there's a mention, right? Yamato said like there's a practice on, or Jinbei explained it. The vigil, the practice of like, what is it exactly? He said, in Wano, they have a custom to give something up until their prayers are answered by the gods. And an interesting point would be Green Bull is fasting for presumably 3 years. And is that his vigil? Is that like a Wano custom, and he's waiting for his prayer or something to be answered? Is that what he's here for? It's very interesting. So that was a reason I was like, oh, like on top of a few other like, theories parts, like that one was like, maybe he is like, that's like an that's manga, like in chapter, the same chapter he's revealed, maybe that's a tie into his backstory. And so like, I guess the other question is, do you think that Wano is crucial or critical in like backstory for the world government?
What do you mean?
Meaning like, so like I said earlier, the 5 years is like a safe bet for like ending the story, right? And when you think about Wano, when we got into Wano, it was very long, but that was also because we need to like learn like internal Wano things, right? Like the Kurozumi hunt, what the Kozuki did, like Ryuma, like there's so many different things between swords and people that we needed to learn, and it got extended, and and then Lunarians too, like there's so many things, right? Whereas with the world government, Oda doesn't necessarily need to do all of that, because the entire series was essentially like preamble for that, that story. And so when I say that 5 years is a safe bet, I'm saying that, but like I'm starting to have like feelings that, especially given the last few chapters, if Wano carries over into the last saga in the way where we're not answering a lot of these questions, it makes it feel like we're going to answer these questions with the world government, which would make it feel like it would be shorter, because Wano would be essentially the setup for a lot of the things that are crucial to understand the world government. And when I think about that, then maybe it's like 3 years, maybe it's 4 years, I don't know. But the way that we're not ending Wano, I don't want to say ending, but like the way we're getting this resolution here, because we're not answering like so many of these questions, like between like the Kurozumi, like, all of the stuff that happened with them and various other things, maybe there's more answers that we'll understand better when we get to the, world government. And if you think like Fujitora, for example, is tied to Wano, like part of my theory is kind of like, could Fujitora have ties to the Kurozumi? Could like a lot of the people off of Wano that we think have ties to Wano, they might have ties to the Kurozumi, because Higurashi, for example, was off of Wano for the entirety before she came back with Orochi, and there was the whole Kurozumi hunt, right? And so we know, right, with real history, when there's a genocidal or discrimination like on that level, what do people do? They leave. They have to leave the country, whether it's as refugees or criminals. And so the Kurozumi leaving Wano could be the setup for a lot of these characters that we don't know the heritage, but we're assuming they're from Wano. And that's just an idea, and it could tie into a lot of different things. And there's other elements to it too, to the world government. I teased it earlier that I said that I might know the identity of that one Gorosei member, but based off of what I said, you still wouldn't know the answer, so it's a good tease. But there's so many. I'm just like, when I said, is that wishful thinking, like I was like, oh no, like because when I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, One Piece might be shorter than we think, and that's scary.
No, I think how Wano wrapped up, it is scary, because I would think it had like 7-8 chapters because of how much I thought we'd have to get. It wrapped up it's wrapping up in 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
We got like Oda just completely skipped over like the Big Mom stuff, the Kaido stuff, like we just got right to it. So it is scary on that end. I'm excited for 1053. Cannot wait. It's like kind of bittersweet, because I know after that it's going to be a long wait for a new chapter.
Yeah.
But fantastic chapter. Did you have any last thoughts?
I would just say, like, I'd say that 1052, like, in my opinion, like, people ask me, it's like, chapter was great. Like, I loved reading it. I loved the moments of it, right? But in the context of like everything else around it, again, it gave us more questions. It answered less things, and then there was a lot more things. So on a macro level within everything else, not that it wasn't good, it was just kind of like hey, like, are we going to continue waiting? Like, what's happening? Not that it doesn't feel good to not know what's happening in the next chapter, but it also feels weird when, like, you could say next chapter's about bounties and I could say it's about Green Bull. Like, I don't know. It could be about Robin. It could be about Poneglyph. So not that that's a bad thing.
That's the beauty.
But it gets scary, especially with the 4 weeks that we're talking about of the break.
I agree. It could be scary stuff, but either way, we're both excited. Again, a really great chapter. We do have qualms about just how, some things are probably wrapped up, feels a bit rushed, but overall, I think just really, really well done chapter. Can't wait for 1053. But guys, give me your thoughts. You can find Parvision, of course. Channel will be in the title, but also link will be in the description. Check them out. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great theories, videos, ideas, if you couldn't tell. But like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.